Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. As always, your host Papatello bringing you coverage of news and all that good stuff from above. Your boy went out for a walk today, went out to a nice lake. I saw the water and I was like, wow, that looks gorgeous. Let me dive in it. And as I was swimming like Michael Phelps through the water, I was doing my laps. I took a sip of the water. I was like, maybe it's a Poland spring. It was a damn lake full of Dasani. I was betrayed, and now I am suing the town, suing the lake, and me and the editor, we're going off to a bake. We're going to start cooking. It's going to be a whole cooking show on Channel 16, on Televisión, I don't even know. Is that Telemundo? Who even knows? I'm not sure. Maybe that might be different from you, but settle down. I said what I said. Por favor. Silencio. Silencio. Much love to you, though. Lock it in, and everybody settle down. However, though, we have a lot of things to discuss in terms of, Retribution Paladin and the War Within. Am I enjoying the class? Is it fun? What do I like about the class? What do I kind of don't like about the class? And is it fun in only PvE, or is it fun in PvP? And do I think there needs to be improvements? There's a lot of stuff to talk about. And we're all going to start off with, just right now, PvE in terms of Ret Paladin. What can I say? I am totally kind of baffled by the playstyle that Ret Paladin offers now in comparison to what Ret Paladin offers obviously in Classic and SOD and Hardcore. Much different by a landscape, by an entire 1,000 miles, because it's obviously retail, right? And a lot of things changed in retail when it came to a lot of class adjustments over time through many expansions. But the Ret Paladin, at least in the War Within, it does feel pretty damn good in PvE. I feel like it's in a nice spot right now where it's not at the point where it was really overpowered, I think, in like the first week or so, where I think Dawnlight was doing way too much damage as a hero talent for Herald of the Sun. And, people start noticing that. Obviously, the devs caught on to that, and, this took a little bit of a hit. And it's kind of in this mediocre middle track spot right now where it's not at the bottom, it's not at the top, but it's in a really good spot. And Ret Paladins are brought into a lot of instances where, especially a big cleave fight, whether it's in raids or in a delve or in a dungeon, or a cleave fight is where a paladin really excels, and it's really cool seeing getting a bunch of ads together. You have your tier set on as well, where you get more percentage based damage based on your judgments and your wake of ashes for a couple seconds, and you have your consecration on me being applied from your Blade of Justice and your Divine Storms and your Divine Toll. I mean, it's just a ton of damage that happens within a small amount of seconds within this burst window that you have, and the damage really racks up. I've seen myself scale from 3 to 4 to almost 5 million damage sometimes, and just pushing those numbers. And there's other classes that offer this high AoE. Don't get me wrong, and sometimes it's even better. Or there's other times, not even sometimes, that these other classes that do AoE damage do better than the Paladin. Don't say that I'm just basically saying that the Ret Paladin is the number one AoE damage, but it is pretty damn good pushing these buttons, and we're really more focused centric on the Ret Paladin in terms of how good it feels for cleaving, and it feels good. I can't deny that. I think other Ret Paladins can agree on that the cleave damage feels pretty damn solid when a lot of ads are built up together and you're pushing, especially in keystones, and it's really nice to have Ret Paladins to offer that high damage windows when you need it, and it's a big call on demand for it. But besides that, I do think the Ret Paladin also in terms of its healing as well, because that's another thing we haven't really discussed is the amount of healing it offers in terms of its Word of Glory, its Lay on Hands. We have Eternal Flame, or also Flash of Lights, and other stuff of that nature. But besides that, I really feel like that the Paladin has some pretty damn decent self-sustained healing. There was times in fights where I would have to run away and kite the boss out myself, whether in a delve or in a raid, and try to survive, right, as best as I can. I've done this before, and there's times I'm shocked on how good I can really hold up, in terms of just healing my own, right, and running around and trying to kite out and survive. And I think honestly the amount of healing done, it's not too over the top, but it's definitely noticeable where it helps get the job done in terms of survivability, which I really do like about the Ret Paladin so far in the War Within. And in terms of also, for example, in defensives, when I was doing delves, I was really having a good time even healing myself in delves, because there was also my defensives that backed me up on top of the healing done with, having the ability to pop my Shield of Vengeance, having the ability to have my bubbles on hand when I needed to pop my protections to, mitigate certain amount of damage. And of course, along with a healing potion if you really needed that. But honestly, it really felt like the Paladin itself, in terms of PvE content, is covered in all areas on how well it can really sustain and maneuver around certain abilities, especially with our freedoms and our divine steeds and the reworks that was done to the tree with that as well. But I really am happy overall with the playstyle of Paladin. Do I think that it can use a little bit more assistance, I would say, more on the single target damage? I definitely think it can improve on its single target damage. I do understand that, like, you know, a big thing for a lot of Paladins is using like execution sentence. That's one of our like our better abilities to use, especially single target wise, because having, you know, this hammer slow folly and like after 8 seconds they suffer 20% of the damage taken from like, you know, your holy abilities and stuff. That's really during that window where we're pumping a lot of damage, you know, with our global cooldowns and really trying to get off as much as we can, whether, you know, someone lusts and we have a lot of haste built up upon. And the Paladin's really based on, you know, mastery and haste, with haste being our secondary stat, and on top of like, you know, the consumes that we bring, you know, to really pump out this damage. I really feel like you know, the single target burst is pretty solid. It's not amazing, don't get me wrong. There is other classes that definitely are scaling way better than single target than us, but it is nice to see that a Ret Paladin or two would probably be, if you have a really good, you know, Paladin in your guild, would be amongst that, you know, top 10 in your list of DPS with a high amount of damage being done for a single target fight, which is really cool, even though that Paladin would shine better in a cleave fight. Now, that's just my opinion so far on Ret Paladin and what I enjoy about the most of it. I think, you know, my favorite hero spec to play is Herald of the Sun, which I think a lot of Paladins are playing right now. And this goes to lead me to my next subject at hand, is really Templar spec Paladin. Now, when I thought Templar was going to be the coolest thing ever, I really thought it was, because I was really excited to see the big thing about, like, you know, the Empyrean hammers like critical striking a bunch of people around them, and how, you know, cool the concept of the class sound, where it was just like big chunks of burst and procs happening over and over and over, and like it was a big beneficial damage, especially if you were keying into like Divine Arbiter, where, you know, you get your High Lord Judgment and your Holy Strike damage abilities grant you like stacks of Divine Arbiter, and then like these stacks basically pile up on each other's, causing like basically a lot of Holy Strike damage to your primary target. And I thought this was going to be a really interesting spec, and it seemed like it scaled really well within Delves, because there's a lot of chunky burst damage that you got from it, but it just didn't really shine overall in the grand scheme of things when it came to like every other instance-based content, dungeons, raids, even PvP. Nobody really uses Templar at all. It seems like Herald of the Sun is so strong in comparison to Templar, where this hero spec seems like it is basically on the back end by a couple yards, I would say, in comparison to its counterpart, which I really do want to see if they make some other changes to Templar spec to maybe increase, you know, the options that it has, like maybe Zealous Vindication, or From Whom the Bell Tolls, or how maybe they change Endless Wrath or Sanctification. A couple of these options to really just, like, you know, increase the maximum efficiency that Templar spec can do, or maybe even give it better burst windows of like chunk damage with these hammers falling from the sky to happen more and more often, because I really feel like if Herald of the Sun is still continuing to be the top spec, no matter what, even with the Dawnlight nerfs, and Templar still falling behind it, I wonder when it's going to get to the point where Templar is in line with Herald of the Sun, and if it will ever reach that point, which I'm assuming it will, because retail is always changing every other week and every other month, and there's always a different meta. So I'm sure they will figure out an idea on how to make Templar a little bit more bang for its buck in terms of PvE, but also especially in PvP once we get down that route. Now, in terms of PvP, right now, currently, I am enjoying Herald of the Sun way more than Templar, because I just feel like right now the biggest problem, at least in PvP, is that there is not enough windows of opportunity to really excel that burst damage and really get those chunks off where those bursts are actually mattering or moving the health bars when you're in arenas within 2v2s, 3v3s, or whatever you're doing, or solo queue, right? And it just doesn't feel like it has that much efficiency to rely upon the damage that it can do, or what it should be doing if it ever were to get changed in the future when we get to test that. So I feel like Herald of the Sun's a little bit more reliable in terms of like its, you know, sustainability, obviously with the heals and, you know, the increase the amount of defensives, and obviously the constant healing that you can provide to your other teammates as well. I think at the same time, Herald the Sun is really good, but it still also suffers from burst damage. And really, when your global cooldowns are really down and you're not using either Avenging Wrath, if you're going for Might, right? If you're going for like Wings, or if you're going for Crusade, and you're basically just trying to increase your haste and rack up how many stacks of haste you could do to bang out the most efficiency of your abilities as fast as you can within your global cooldowns, it almost feels like that even that specific spec of the Herald of the Sun feels a little lackluster in certain windows because of just how much healing is going on in Battlegrounds. Now, you could say that's a comment on whether healing is just too over-tuned or overpowered, so to say, but at the same time, you can notice the differences with other classes like Arms Warriors or Rogues, where they burst really fast in really good windows, especially mages as well. If a mages catches you in a window of a really big burst, you get really damaged, you get really hurt. So I really like seeing, the Paladin possibly in the future maybe getting tuned a little bit better for its burst in PvP modification, and then leaving it like by itself in PvE, because obviously we have our high cleave and what we do in PvE is already pretty solid. Maybe just increasing Templar in PvE and leaving Herald of the Sun alone, because Herald of the Sun is really at the point where they already hit it with the 15% nerf on Dawnlight, and maybe make changes to Templar to increase its efficiency of bursting within PvE, but also even within PvP, depending on the modifiers that they do. I think honestly that's where the changes need to happen. Templar in PvE, Templar in PvP, Herald of the Sun in PvP as well, because right now it doesn't seem like these classes are really meta in PvP, just from like people that I've been watching, the guides I've been seeing, and people's rankings on websites in terms of PvP on how far they are and what are the best comps as well. And it really feels like that the Paladin can use a little bit more support in its like self-sustain in PvP, some changes to the modifiers there, its defensives especially within PvP, and obviously its burst windows within PvP. So those are the things that I really wanted to comment upon on what I think can be improved on, maybe even increase the efficiency of how much wings can be done, and maybe we get a little bit more bang from our buck with our wing damage once those are obviously popped. But besides that, that's really all I have to say when it comes to the Paladin and how I'm feeling overall. I feel like we're not a meta class, long story short. We feel like a pretty solid class to just bring along, and I think that's okay. And I just definitely think we can see improvements with the Retribution Paladin along the road as we go, whether it's for the best or worse. And I am still happy with our skill set at the end of the day, but I definitely can see some patch notes happening sometime soon, whether it's small talent changes or minuscule little things that are being adjusted, maybe on the hero entry for Templar especially, and then we just go from there. But that's basically about what I have to say. So if you guys enjoyed the video and you enjoyed everything I went over, just let me know in the comments below. There's a lot of things I'm even learning myself and trying to better adjust when it comes to the videos and come up with things of that nature, and really go over more Retribution Paladin stuff. I do want to make more videos on like actual log comparisons to other really good players that I'm seeing right now, and going over their talent trees, why they went over certain things of that nature, testing stuff on like target dummies, and obviously doing more like PvP video related things in terms of like doing arenas and showcasing decisions that I made on certain people. Maybe within arenas will showcase why I shut down this person, why I try to focus this individual, and go from there. Because right now I definitely think at least in arenas at the current moment, there is a lot of other classes that have like a lot of self-sustain on the go, like hunters for example, the ability to keep moving, the bubble that they have, right? And they have really good healing even on their own. It's very impressive to see like how many classes really changed over the time, and I'm really relearning, rewiring my train of thought of all these classes that I'm versing. Who has the better CCs, the better defensives, the more burst damage, the true damage that really hurts, especially from like warriors that have mortal strikes and stuff like that, which is mortal strike's always been a badass ability since a very long time within PvP from warriors. But overall, though, it's really cool. It's really fascinating, and I'm learning as I go. So expect, us learning here. We're learning a lot of stuff. So for anybody that's teaching, you know, Paladin stuff in the comments below, show me some retail Paladin stuff. I would love to learn more things and, you know, continue and keep growing as a content creator with, you know, Paladin talk on retail. And, you know, we're going to be more videos talking about more stuff on the War Within, on what we're learning here with the Retribution. So much love to you. Lock it in and keep on keeping on, all that good stuff. I hope you guys have a damn good one and you enjoy yourself. You know what's funny? I know I said this in the video probably a long time ago, but I still don't play the PS5. I bought this damn console for no reason. The God of War edition, no reason. And there's a lot of stuff that I want to play on there. I never have the damn time because I gave the PS5 to my mama, and now she's using it for everything. Mama Tello, you better bring back the PS5, or I'm just going to have to wait to the PS6 and buy that, and then never use that again either. What's going on, Sony? You're f***ing my ass up!